Welcome back to Talkin Shop with ShopSabre. In this podcast, we like to tackle the CNC industry specifically and really talk a little bit about business in general. Hopefully, you'll find some entertainment throughout it and hopefully some education. But the next episode starts right now. Here we go with another episode. Thank you guys for joining us here at Talkin Shop. I'm your host, Brandon Bombardo, and I'm here with Nick Peters.
Hello, Brandon.
How you doing, man?
Never better. How are you?
Oh, can't complain, man. It's another week, another episode. I always enjoy this.
Always. It's a nice break in the day.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, each week we try to entertain everybody, and it's great to entertain ourselves sometimes. So I always enjoy talking about some of the things, and obviously, there's a lot this week to jump into. We got a pretty good episode in front of us, don't you think?
We do. Looks great.
Yeah, we're going to talk about current events, and then we'll jump into our customer questions and comments, followed up with audience questions so we can hear from you. And then we have a really good topic this week on the 10,000-hour rule. I'm excited to talk about that. You know what the 10,000-hour rule is?
I'm about to find out.
About to find out. And then, obviously, my favorite, the internet is broken. And then we will do the motivational quote of the week, and we'll wrap it up with our final thoughts. So, without further ado, let's jump right into current events. Current events. What's current? The Vikings won.
The Vikings won again.
Let's go. 3-0.
3-0.
Sam Darnold.
What else would you expect when you're being led by Darnold Schwarzenegger?
Darnold Schwarzenegger. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's, I think he's surprised a lot of people, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just shows what a fresh start with a better team around you can do.
Right. You know, my thing about it is my fantasy team won this week. Let's just talk about that because I told you last week they were terrible, and this week almost at high score.
Almost.
But then they sat my running back because they were up such a huge lead at halftime. So
I didn't score a lot of points, but still won because the guy I played scored less.
Hey, sometimes that's all the game is. It's a bunch of luck, man.
It's all luck. I didn't lose in any leagues this week, actually.
That's awesome.
6-0 for the first time maybe ever.
You know the best part about this last weekend? The fall weather that arrived. I got to sleep with the windows open, finally.
They've been open for like 4 days straight. It's fantastic.
It's great.
If this could just go to like April, that'd be great.
I agree with you. Like, this is perfect weather. Like, I got to find a way to live in this weather because this is perfect. It's cool enough to where you can wear sweatshirts, but warm enough to wear shorts.
San Diego.
Cool enough for sweatshirts, warm enough.
San Diego. For 75 year round. All
really?
Yeah.
Dang, I need to get me some of that weather.
It'd get boring, though.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I enjoy this weather.
I mean, I don't know. Once in a while, it's nice to have it a little bit warmer, a little cooler.
I scheduled our annual Halloween extravaganza here at ShopSabre.
I scheduled another annual event for myself, but we don't need to talk about that.
What's your annual event?
Nothing to do with pumpkins and apple orchards.
Falling into the lake.
That's unnecessary. That's more than annually.
That's an annual thing.
Like 4 times.
You fall into the lake. Yeah, no, we scheduled our Halloween extravaganza. I'm pretty excited about it, which is our pumpkin carving contest and costume contest here at ShopSabre. It's kind of fun.
Are we doing a chili cook-off again?
I think we're going to.
Sweet.
I think we're going to carry on that tradition.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and I like chili, so.
I'm going to have to start a new wall of trophies in my office at home.
I'm going to bring in a bucket of Wendy's chili.
That'd be really funny, actually.
And just see if people pick it.
Just add some stuff to it.
I'm not doing anything. I'm literally going to buy it, put it in there, and see if anybody picks it.
Nobody knows your secret.
Nobody's
going to know what it is.
Nobody's going to know it.
Apple cider donuts, man.
Dude, they're the best.
Maybe the best donut there is.
Apple cider donuts are pretty bomb. The ones specifically from Jordan.
Yeah.
By your place. Dude, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
I can't get enough of those.
Wonder if Natalie can make them just as good.
Natalie, if you're listening, will you please try to make apple cider donuts?
She makes the best pumpkin bars ever.
Does she?
Oh, yeah.
I'll be the deciding factor on that.
Need a whole pan of them at once.
I will need a whole pan, please.
Yes.
I will test them. Did I miss any current events?
I don't think so. About it covers it.
We got it?
I think so.
Well, that's good. So, yeah, obviously, with that, I think we should jump right into our customer questions. Customer questions and comments. Had a question come up. What is the difference between repeatability and cutting tolerance? Repeatability is where something arrives at over and over. So it's repeatable, correct? Cutting tolerance is what a part will be following the cutting process. For example, a machine can move to the same position over and over, many times at a much tighter tolerance than it's going to cut at. Because, of course, when you're cutting, there's outside influences and outside forces, which include tooling itself, tooling deflection, hold down material deflection. There's so many variables outside of the machine itself or the equipment, and that is typically your cutting tolerances. So you will generally see a better repeatability on a piece of equipment than you will a cutting tolerance simply because of outside variables. So the higher the cutting tolerance demand that you have, the higher the cost of the solution. Yep. I will tell you that because we have a aerospace mill here at ShopSabre that builds the frames of these machines. And because obviously we are firm believers that the frame is the foundation, and obviously like a home, if the foundation isn't very good, it's going to fall down. We feel that the foundation of our machines need to be very well built. And therefore, even on our smallest machine, the 23, we do aerospace mill them. And the aerospace mill mills the frame side to side. So the linear guide rails, the surface they mount to, within thousands. But that mill was almost $2 million. Right. So to be able to hold cutting tolerances of 1,000, you're spending some serious money. Sure. But I mean, you can get into some, pretty good tolerances still. And for the average person using a router, you're not trying to hold mill tolerances. And to be honest, if you're trying to hold mill tolerances, you probably should buy a mill.
Right.
So, the reality is that's the difference. I mean, repeatability is if I tell the machine to go to a position and come back to it over and over, it should be within a certain tolerance. On our machines, that is plus or minus 1,000ths of an inch. And then as far as when it comes to cutting tolerances, those tolerances vary based on a number of items outside of your control.
The thing that kind of blows my mind when I see those numbers is like you see 0.02 of an inch, right?
Right.
How does that, like, I don't know if there's a simple answer for this question, but how can 0.02 of an inch really affect like what you're cutting or what you're trying to produce?
It just depends on what the application is. I mean, you think about clearances, right? And depending, when you talk about an engine, for example, my race motor, right? Thousandths of an inch is a difference between something working at maximum performance versus something going boom.
That makes sense.
So,
just, like, to me, that number just seems so like
it is
minuscule.
But like, think about, again, I don't know how much you know about cars, but like inside the internals of an engine, like you have the piston that moves up and down and has to move in the sleeve, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's just barely clearing.
Yep.
And if that doesn't align correctly, you're going to either have too much blow by, right? And therefore losing compression and losing motor power, or it's too tight and then you're going to blow things up because you're creating friction and heat. Sure.
So that makes sense. It's just, I don't know, it always seems like such a minuscule number to me.
Yeah, and it just depends. Like I said, the application is going to vary. Same with like MDF doors. MDF doors in the woodworking market, the tolerances matter because that is the accuracy of your door.
Fair.
So, yeah. And then moving on to question 2. Does the 23 still have the quick tool change option? Simple answer is no. ShopSabre discontinued the sales of that option. Long-term performance we found just was limited. Like I said, the speed of the machine really didn't get a ton faster with that spindle. The tool height measuring technology that we include with all of our routers standard actually produces a similar speed. You can change tools really, really quick, and to be honest, it's a more robust design in my opinion. So that's kind of why we've gotten away from that. So that's why you don't see much of the quick tool change anymore. And then and the quick tool change, we mean spindle. Quick tool change spindle, not quick tool change on the machine. The machine has still got quick tool change. But yeah, moving on, referring to the Sabre Nation University video for the Opt laser setup in operation, we had somebody mention they were confused on how the zero works for the laser. They want to know, how do you decide which tool to zero? The answer is any tool. It doesn't matter as long as the tool has been tool measured before you set your zero. And then the machine is smart enough to do the offset for the laser. So at that point, you just pick a tool and set your zero. Easy enough.
Easy enough. And
the final one, that's my dream machine, is what somebody said on the Out and About video that we recently posted at Bespoke of Montana. And I always say dreams are made to come true. So get in touch with us. We have some great financing incentives right now. We have some good specials through the end of the year. And like I said, there's some real good incentives to add your ShopSabre to your shop before you are moving on to 2025.
That's still the best part of this job for me, I think, is hearing from those people that were like afraid to make that leap into a machine or like hesitant to do it.
Yep.
And then to hear like how much it's changed their business, changed their life, and just them thinking like, hey, I should have done this so much sooner. I'm glad I finally did. Just to hear those stories and success stories is awesome.
Yeah, we have a new Out and About video coming very soon. And that story is it's one of my favorites.
Really good.
Yeah,
really
it's really cool. I can't wait to get it live here, and I think people will really enjoy it. So stay tuned for that one. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel if you want to get notification when that comes live. The audience question of the week. What is the best part of the internet? And what is the worst part of the internet? And why? That's my question for you, the audience. I would like to know your opinion of what the best part of the internet is and what the worst part of the internet is and why you consider it that.
The people.
I agree.
I think that can be, that's obviously it covers both sides though, right?
It does.
Like there's obviously a million rabbit holes you can go down depending on what you get, you get looking at. But for me, obviously the best part is just the positivity you can see on it, right?
Yeah.
The stories of, like for us, successful business stories, right?
Yeah.
Seeing those on the internet and then seeing those successful stories and then having somebody kind of crap on somebody's story for no reason. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, so for me, I think the answer is simple, like the people.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's a good answer.
Bad.
I like the word people because you cover the whole spectrum there. But for me, I picked the good being the ability to reach information nowadays.
For sure.
Like I think about when my dad started this business. He had to go to a library. He had to go do research the hard way. Like he had to physically go figure this stuff out. You had to write letters, call people, do things to get information on their, on the vendor's equipment, whether it be a bearing, a ball screw, you had to learn the hard way. Nowadays, our generation, like my kids, my son taught himself to ride a bike using YouTube. Like I was at work and he's at home in the summer and decided he was going to figure out how to ride a bike. And I wasn't there obviously because I was working, and I figured out how to ride a bike watching tutorials.
Crazy,
it's crazy.
Right?
And then I think about my kid as a goalie, the amount of resources he has available to him to be able to learn. So he watches videos of professional NHL players, and even at practice, we record his videos of him, at practice, and then we send them in to real NHL trainers that then evaluate hey, this is what he's doing right or wrong. He could work on this and that will help him.
Yep.
And it has helped him. He watches the video. He's like, oh, Dad, I didn't realize I was dropping my glove like that. And so then he consciously thinks about it to create a habit where he's not doing it. And it's made him a better goalie.
Yep.
So to me, that's a good part of the internet. There's so much access to resources that you just otherwise wouldn't have. You don't have to be an expert in everything because there's an expert in everything.
Absolutely.
And you have access to it now. So that's the good. The bad to me is it's weaponized. It's weaponized people. They believe that they can utilize it to take advantage of people.
For sure.
Whether that be scamming people, right? How many times do you see posts, click on the link and you get this free, right? You had it happen to your page, right? Yeah. But they're scamming. And it's weaponized it so people can use it for negative. They can fake they're somebody they're not. They can go on and, again, cyberbullying is a real thing. There's bullying, and when I grew up was when you're at school.
Yep.
You got bullied when you were at school, and it was kind of part of life. And to be honest, the bully kind of made you tougher, right? You had to be. But the bully went away when you left school. They didn't have the ability to bully you anymore. Where now, you go home and they just keep bullying you.
For sure.
It's actually worse probably at home than it is, So it's that's the worst part, is that side of the weaponization of the internet. So that's my two in and out. So love to hear your guys' opinion on it. Going back to the question, what is the best part of the internet for you, and what is the worst part about the internet for you, and why? So let's hear it, and let's jump into this week's topic, which is the 10,000 hour rule. Do you know what the 10,000 hour rule is?
No, but I'm looking forward to learning about this because it looks very interesting.
What comes to mind when you first think the 10,000 hour rule? What did you think when you first read it?
That's a long time.
That's a long time. That's a lot of hours.
Honestly, I didn't really think anything other than just what is this going to mean?
Yeah.
How is it going to break down?
Yeah. So it's actually it was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers. So it's something you can learn a little bit more about. But it suggests it takes around 10,000 hours of dedicated practice to achieve mastery in any skill or profession. Do you agree with that?
I guess I don't know, but do you ever really master something?
That was my question. Because
I feel like there's always things, say, me personally, with photography. If I did photography for 10,000 hours.
Do you think you've hit 10,000 hours yet in photography, truthfully?
Probably not.
Okay.
I mean, no, probably not, no.
Okay.
But let's say that I did.
Yep.
I would never feel like there's not other things to learn or things to do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I still don't think I've taken a lot of photos that I think are really great, but I don't think there's one that's been perfect. I don't know. I just feel like there's always room to improve on something.
So let me change it for you. You were in the golf industry. Do you think you spent 10,000 hours in the golf industry?
Way more.
Okay. So in the golf industry, do you consider yourself a professional or a master?
Not even close.
Not even close. So I think there's some caveats to this rule, right? But I do like the idea of it.
I guess I would say it all depends on what you're really doing, maybe, right?
And that's exactly what I was just going to say, is I do like the idea of it because I do believe there's some truth to this. I think it depends how broad of a term you're referring to. Like, to be a master in golf, there's a lot to master there.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to take more than 10,000 hours. But like, to be a master at your job, I think you can master that in 10,000 hours.
For sure.
Like, I truly believe that. The idea is rooted, it was rooted in research. They found that elite performers, like in fields like music, sports, business, invested roughly 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. Not just doing it, but deliberately practicing to reach an expert level. And I think that's where you have to think about it. Like, you spent all those hours in the golf industry, but you weren't deliberately practicing to become an expert, right? You were just doing your job.
For sure.
And naturally, doing your job, you're going to gain knowledge, you're going to gain experience, and naturally you become very good at it, but you're not an expert. But had you spent deliberately 10,000 hours just trying to become an expert, I think you could have.
Yeah, on certain aspects of it, probably, for sure.
Yeah, and that's where, so here's how the 10,000 hour rule breaks down in a business or craft setting, okay? Daily commitment. If you commit about 5 hours per day to focus on work, it would take you roughly 2,000 days or around 5.5 years to hit your 10,000 hours. Full-time efforts, okay, for you full-time people, your full-time effort, if you were all you were doing was committing to this craft with a standard 40-hour work week, right? You could reach 10,000 hours in about 5 years. Isn't that crazy?
It is, yeah.
And so, as a part-time commitment, now think about people who don't, they do it as a side hustle, right? It's all a side gig. You're working on your craft, your business part-time, right? Say 2 hours a day. It would take you closer to 13 and a half years to accumulate that much focused practice on what you're doing. 13 and a half years.
That's crazy.
Over a decade.
There ain't nobody nowadays that does the same thing for 13 and a half years.
That's my point.
I mean, really.
So my point being is that for people to claim that they're experts in something, when many of them are only 2, 3, 4 years into something, you can't claim being an expert in that amount of time.
But I guess what classifies you as an expert, though? Because like if you think back to like the sports example,
yeah,
I guess I would consider you an expert at golf if you made a birdie on every single hole, hit every single fairway, hit every single green in regulation,
right?
And like you didn't have any mistakes.
But my question goes back to: do you think somebody could truly achieve that?
Absolutely not.
In 10,000 hours?
No,
I don't think so either.
Because like even the best golfer in the world hits poor shots. Like,
correct. And that's what I was just going to say is like, I'm sorry, but I would consider Tiger Woods an expert. And he doesn't do it.
But what, I guess.
Even Tiger Woods in his prime didn't do it.
I guess you just need to determine what an expert is. Or what you classify the expert.
Like that's at just discretion, right? At one's discretion, they can determine what's an expert. But the point being is that like the reason I brought this up and the reason I think it matters is because you have a lot of people who are putting time into their business as a business owner, but they're not putting the time into the business, right? They're just working for the business.
Yep.
And so, yes, you're putting all this time and energy in, but you're really not like perfecting your craft because you're just doing what you got to do to get by.
Yep.
Because you're so caught up in the moment of like, oh my God, this is due and then this is due and I got to do this and this, that you really aren't advancing your business. You're just surviving.
You're just doing what you know.
Yeah,
how to get
it's the same thing with you in the golf industry.
Yep.
And I go back to that. You spent 20 years in the golf industry.
Yep.
But I would be willing to bet that out of the 20 years that you were in the golf industry, a large majority of your time in that industry was spent surviving.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just sun up to sundown trying to get by.
Yep.
And that's my point being here is that to become a master, you really have to commit to it. And, why 10,000 hours, right? Let's start there. Why is 10,000 hours the consideration? The idea behind the rule is that true mastery comes from 1, consistent efforts, right, over a long period, and then 2, deliberate practicing. And that is actively pushing the boundaries of your abilities not just repeating a task. And that goes back to what I'm talking about. Doing the daily task doesn't necessarily mean it.
Yep.
It's pushing the boundaries to be better at those tasks. The point that I point to it is at hockey practice. This question came up this week at hockey practice. We were doing a coaches meeting, and all the coaches were talking about. And one of the questions that was asked among us coaches was, what is the difference between practice planning and practice? God, now I'm going to forget the word. It was something to do with, I apologize. It was something to do with the difference between basically practice and game, right?
Yep.
What's the difference? Preparation. That's what it is. What's the difference between practice preparation and game preparation? And what I told my answer to this, and I feel is a valid answer, is in practice, we push to make mistakes so that in games, we minimize the mistakes.
For sure.
And it's like what I've always told my skaters is in practice, I don't want you comfortable. If I see you take a corner and you glide, I make you go back and do it. Right. You are gonna skate through that corner. Well, I'm gonna fall. Good. Fall. I want you to fall in practice.
Right.
So you don't fall in the game. Like
you keep repeating it.
Correct.
You do it
and that's my point. Is
correctly.
like when you're pushing your comfort zone, that eventually you become faster in the corners and you're skating and you're comfortable doing crossovers. Suddenly you're not going to fall in the game when you need to use that.
Correct.
But if the only time you force yourself to do it is when you're in a situation in a game where if I don't do it, I have zero chance of winning this puck battle, then you do it and you fall and you still lose the puck battle. Right. Well, now you're frustrated in the game and the team's frustrated. Everybody's frustrated. Your parents are frustrated. Everybody.
Yep.
Versus fall in practice. And I see so many kids fall in practice and they get upset and they look at me right away. They fall on the ice and they immediately look at me like expecting me to be upset. And I'm not upset ever.
No.
I'm like, good for you. Get back up now.
Get up and do it over.
Do it again. Yeah. If you fall, it means I know you pushed yourself beyond your capabilities.
Yep.
I want to see every one of my skaters falling in practice.
Absolutely.
Because that will make them a better skater long term. And I tell the parents that. Don't get upset when little Johnny is spending more time on the ice during practice than he is, looking perfect. He already made the team. I don't need him to be a tryout queen.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I need him to go out and be able to be the best he can be. And the only way he's going to get better is by making mistakes.
Absolutely.
I'm okay with mistakes in practice.
Yeah.
So that goes back to that. And then obviously number 3 on this list of why 10,000 hours is learning from the feedback. Is making adjustments and refining your approach. And I say the same thing about hockey. I'm going to tell you what I saw, what you did, what you should have done. Can you learn from that feedback? And can you do it differently?
I think number 3 is the most important one of the 3.
Absolutely.
By far.
I agree
not
with
even
that.
Close.
I think so many people don't have the ability to shut their mouth and listen.
Right.
There's so many people in the world that they can't take feedback and process it.
And that does no good to not take that feedback, because if you go back to number 1 and number 2 in practice and put the effort into doing it wrong, what's the point?
Correct.
Right?
And that's the point of what I'm saying, is that if you do your job and you're just doing your job every day, and somebody tells you if you do it this way, it's faster, and you continuously do it wrong or the other way and it's slower, and are you really benefiting from what you're doing? No, you're just spending time and energy.
Just going through the motions the same way.
Exactly. And so in business, that means, constantly honing your expertise, right? And whether it's through improving processes, right? Let's talk about your businesses. Your processes have to improve and have to change, and you have to invest your time and energy into it. And that means putting your 2 to 5 hours a day into helping your business advance, right?
Yep.
Or refining the customer service. Maybe there's things you could do better. I feel like that's something ShopSabre does consistently, is refining our processes and refining our customer experience. We're not perfect. We know we make mistakes.
Right.
We try to take care of our customers to the best of our ability in any given moment.
And I think that's the biggest thing too that a lot of businesses miss on. If somebody, say we send out an email to somebody, and they send us feedback saying, hey, this kind of is maybe worded weird, or doesn't sound right, or is confusing. Most people would just ignore it and be like, well, that person's just being a pain.
They just can't understand.
They just don't get it, whatever.
Yeah.
But at least be open to looking at it and reading through what they're suggesting and see if it needs to be changed. Because maybe 1 or 2 words is confusing and it needs to be reworded.
And that's what I was going to say. Let me ask how many times you've, unfortunately, you're going to hate me for this. How many times have I sent you emails and said, can you read this and tell me, does this need to be reworded?
Yeah, a lot.
I do it because somebody has critiqued it somewhere. Somewhere along the line, somebody said something to me that made you go, maybe I'm missing something here. Send it off to somebody else, a third party, somebody who just zero involvement. They have zero dog in the fight. Yep. Tell me if this reads weird. And there's been times you've told me, to be honest, I don't know what the hell you're saying. That's confusing. And so we've had to fix things. But the same can be said for mastering your product development, right?
Yep.
How many people build a product and then don't ever listen to feedback?
a lot.
Right?
I mean, yeah.
Like I own some of those products in my garage. It's like being able to understand what your customers are looking for is a huge part of it. And then shaping your industry knowledge around the things you don't know. That's what I always remind people is everybody wants to pretend they know everything. Like I try to know nothing.
Don't be the smartest person in the room.
Correct. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Like I want to learn from people around me so I can gain as much knowledge as I can.
For sure.
And I know a lot of people spend a lot of time becoming the person who knows everything. And they take a lot of pride in being the person that knows everything. But I feel like once you are the smartest person in the room, learning becomes much more difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Because now you have to be the person digging up the information versus somebody else bringing you something you didn't know.
Because you don't want to be the person learning from somebody else, right?
Correct. Like I'm okay with that. I want to learn from people. And so I think it was, I don't know if it was Steve Jobs, but I think that was one of the things he always said is like hiring people that can do something better than you. And I might be wrong on who said that, but
Sure.
that's what it's always about for me is find somebody who has the skills I don't have.
Absolutely.
Hire that person. So, over time, this persistent effort translates into deep understanding, obviously foresight and instinctive decision-making that sets you apart from leaders or experts in the field, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when you become a true mastery of your craft, right? Is when you can make a quick decision above all else. And I think that's, again, going back to sports, is putting yourself in uncomfortable positions during practice so that way during game-like situations, you have the comfort to make a rapid decision.
For sure.
There was a study that was done by, I don't remember who, it was a hockey team. And they were talking about that, like the majority of the game, I think it was like 90% of the game is played within 3 feet of the boards, which is crazy.
It is, but it's probably true.
It's true. Like I thought about it after I read it. And I'm like, absolutely. Like you're rarely in open ice, just like You're always in the boards or trying to find space, right? And so like they were talking about how you need to become comfortable in those situations. And like being able to be the fastest skater in a straight line, that's great if you get a breakaway.
Yep.
How many breakaways do you get in a season? Sometimes zero.
I was going to say sometimes no.
Yeah.
None.
So it's like that working on that skill doesn't help the team as much as working on board battles.
Yep.
Body positioning, winning puck battles.
The puck, yep.
Yeah. And so you start to think about that in your business is working on the things that is easy doesn't always make you a better business, right?
Correct.
You got to work on the things that you spend the majority of your time on, whether that being creating product sales, whatever, right? And so while the 10,000 hour rule isn't an exact science, right? It's a reminder that mastery does not come quickly. It takes a constant effort, and it's a result of persistence and disciplined efforts. Like if you aren't willing to do the things that you don't want to do when you don't want to do them,
Yep.
then you're probably not going to get to the levels you need to get to.
100%.
And that means sometimes you have to make investments in equipment, in people, and things when you don't want to. And during uncomfortable times, like some of the fastest growing businesses I've ever met, some of the most successful company owners that I've ever had the luxury of getting to know have made some of the most difficult decisions in difficult times. They have chosen to put money into their business instead of their luxuries when the choice was to hang on to their money or to reinvest.
Goes back to being uncomfortable when you don't want to be, right?
Correct. And that's what I've always said is like, I always joke, if you ask billionaires, right? If you've ever talked to a billionaire or a person who is a millionaire even, and you ask them like, have you ever been broke? I'll guarantee you every one of them, dang near every one of them will say yes.
For sure. Probably you.
Like, because they have spent everything they have to achieve their success because what they were rooting for in the future was more important than the present.
Correct.
And so I think that's where you as a business owner, is you're sitting back and you're wondering, okay, it's the end of the year. Man, I don't want to spend money. You need to spend the money. Spend the money now so next year is a better year.
Correct.
Like you're working for your future self. Do something today your future self will appreciate.
Yep.
Right? And that means put the money into your business today, whether it be buying a piece of equipment for Section 179. It's another thing to talk about. The tax write-offs that are coming. Like how many people have held on to their money all year long, right? Oh, what if something happens? What if something happens? And then guess what? Tax season's not going to like, oh, hey, you held on. We're going to hold on too. No, tax season's going to hit January 1st.
Yep.
And you're either writing a check or you're having a deduction. Take advantage of the Section 179 so you can increase your business's throughput in 2025 instead of just writing a big check to the IRS.
Yeah. Write a check that's going to make you more money.
Right.
And not
turn your money into money.
Yeah.
There was something that I read or watched. It was a video. Again, same thing. You reminded me of it with that comment. It was, there was a guy interviewing a billionaire, and he said, the billionaire said, the difference is people who consider themselves middle class or poor don't buy things to make them money always. They buy things for pleasure.
Sure.
And he said, the difference with, he goes, most millionaires and billionaires is everything we buy is an asset. We buy it with the purpose to make money. So we aren't going to finance a vehicle that isn't going to make us money.
Sure.
We aren't going to, we pay cash for the things that are luxury. And if we can't pay the cash, then we don't buy them. And it made me realize that like tools should be financed and can be financed. And it's okay to do that because realistically, these things should be paying for themselves.
Many times over.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, go back to thinking about that mentality is that every investment you make should be with the idea of, okay, how is this money going to be returned to me? What is this tool? What is this person? What is this building? What is this process going to do for my business XYZ?
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. My business makes money off of this. This product contributes this way. So it goes back to being a master in your industry. You really have to start to think about like doing the little things and putting the effort in daily. A daily commitment, right? Some sort of daily commitment, whether it's 2 hours, 5 hours, all day long. Like you have to make a daily commitment to your growth.
100% agree.
So I think I covered it.
That was good.
That's a 10,000 hour rule. So for anybody listening, I encourage you to practice the 10,000 hour rule. Find a way to get to your 10,000 hours. If you start today, depending on the effort you put in, you will be at your goal in 5 years.
2030, you'll be an expert.
Think about that, though. 5 years.
It seems like forever away, but it's not.
It's not. In 5 years, if you could change your life, would you do it?
100%.
You absolutely would. So if you work the hardest you've ever worked for the next 5 years, in 5 years, you will be in a better spot.
For sure.
I promise you that.
Yep.
In 13 and a half years, you won't even remember where you were today.
You're right, because I'm going to be on the beach retired.
There it is. Go get it. Go get it. I hope you are. But honestly, you think about that. 13 and a half years, will you remember this one little moment when you sacrificed 2 hours a day? No. You're not going to remember it at all.
Nope.
And I remind that the hockey team. I tell the kids on the hockey team that because I coach 9, 10, and 11-year-olds. Some of them are 12. But I remind them, when you are on the varsity squad, your senior year, getting ready to go to the state championship game at the Excel Energy Center, are you going to remember the time that you had to skate lines for 15 minutes when you were 11? No. You're going to be damn glad you did, though.
Right.
Because that is when practice comes out, is the little things you did got you there. But you don't remember them when you get there. You remember the moments that you're at.
Correct. They'll remember that time you made them skate to the corner too fast and they slid into the boards and hurt their knee, though.
They will remember that. That's true. I just am a firm believer that there's a lot of good things that you could take out of this. So
for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to share it. I was excited about that topic. So did I leave anything out that you want to add to it, I guess, before I move on?
No, I think that was actually a really good covering of everything.
All right, awesome. The internet, well, it's broken. Let's talk about the internet. It's broken. We talked about this a little bit in my question for the audience, but today's internet is broken in the use of social media. In turn, the internet in general is the way I look at it. Like me and my dad were talking about the internet, and that's how this came up. Is I just laughed because he's like, "It's the worst thing that ever happened." And I'm like, well, it's the best worst thing that ever happened.
Yep.
I said, you think back 10 years ago when people would communicate with one another with a purpose, right? You would generally, purpose of communication was to resolve an issue,
for sure.
right?
Yep,
or to come to a conclusion on something. Now it seems like everything's like a quick, get rich quick tactic, right? It's whether you're trying to become a viral hit, how many of this like TikTok,
God.
How many people are trying to become like famous off of TikTok,
It's so weird to watch.
They get quick or get rich quick mentality, right? Or even the mob mentality.
The 15 minutes of fame.
Right, yeah, the 15 minutes of fame. It's ridiculous.
Right?
But the mob mentality to me is what's worse. Somebody does get their 15 minutes of fame and then the mob just gets them. Like everybody just mobs them with like terrible comments and terrible things. And it's like we live in such a world where it's so easy to throw an insult versus just like try to build somebody up.
Right.
Or
just ignore it.
I don't get that.
Scroll by. Like who cares?
I always say that to people all the time because I'm like, I don't care if you agree or disagree with somebody. Just scroll by if you don't agree.
Right.
Like, why feed it? Like, I don't understand it. And then, like I said, the financial benefits that come along with it there's a lot more shortcomings than there are financial benefits, in my opinion. Like,
oh, yeah.
There's just so much with the internet that just, like, I don't have a comment this week. I'm not going to, like, call out any comment this week. I found a few, but I figured I'd be nice. But just some of the stuff that people say and do, and just made me realize that, like, it's, again, back to my statement, it's so weaponized now. Like, how can I hurt somebody's feelings today?
Yep.
I don't know.
And it's so easy to just, like, do it anonymously or nobody's going to know.
I think that's the worst invention.
Like the fact that you can just throw any name on your account and nobody's going to know, or like
you can just have anonymous now.
Post anonymously to say something stupid. It's just like,
you know why people didn't say mean things back when I was a kid?
Because you were going to get punched in the nose.
Because you were going to get punched in the mouth. Yeah. Exactly. And then it's like nowadays they just hide behind their keyboard with their little keyboard. Their little anonymous signal. Like, you don't even know who they are.
No.
Like
wearing their headphones, watching YouTube while they.
I just don't understand it. Maybe I'm getting old.
That's fine. I hope I get old really fast.
I'm getting old.
So that doesn't bother me like it does.
Yeah.
I've gotten over football bothering me, so now I just need to get over the internet pissing me off.
The internet is the worst thing that was ever invented.
I think it's hard though when you have kids the age that we do.
Right.
Like that's one of those things where like you just can't ignore it. Like you have
that's
to
what bugs me.
Watch it. Like
that's where all this resentment comes from. It's not my job.
Right.
Like it's really not. My resentment for the internet comes from my kids.
Yep.
Like my oldest is really good about getting his butt off the couch and going outside. He's awesome at it. He goes and plays football. He's my hockey player. So he'll go out. He's my goalie, excuse me. He'll go out and play outside all day long. And then he'll come in and spend maybe 15 minutes on the video games. Then he just gets up and goes and does something else. My youngest, dude, is so glued to electronics. Oh, my God, dude. I literally have to like...
Mine too, actually.
So little secret here. I unplug my kid's iPad at night sometimes when he's charging it. So it dies the next day.
That's funny.
I do it on purpose because I'm like, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing so critical in the world that you need your iPad. So there's times that when I see that, like, oh, it's at 65% and he's charging it, I just unplug it.
All right.
Or then he gets up in the morning, he's like, Dad, my iPad was unplugged. And now it's at 12%. I'm like, oh, no, you have to go outside.
Or you just flip the switch on the Wi-Fi because you still have internet service on your phone and don't have to worry about it.
I do that. I have a timer set at my house. My Wi-Fi shuts off to certain devices. So all my kids' devices shut off at a set time. And it's like, it's funny because like I'll tell them, you have 5 minutes. And then I know they're not going to respect it. So I just turn it off. And then my kid will be like, oh, come on. I'm like,
that was not 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm like, that's 5 minutes, dude. So, but yeah, that's what I hate about the internet. Like, I just hate like the electronic aspect of the world.
Right.
Like, I love electronics. Don't get me wrong. They're great. But like kids spend so much time like buried in their phones.
Do you think if we could go back to like the days of having to sit and wait for AOL to dial up, that the kids would just get sick of waiting for it and go outside?
I hated the...
I know, because you could never go on it at like 2 a.m. because it would wake up your parents.
Because everybody would wake up.
But like, just think, if the kids had to wait 2 minutes for the thing to connect, they would just leave, wouldn't they?
I don't know. Like, I feel like you should be able to go back to minutes. Like, let me load the minutes.
Right.
It's just unlimited. As a parent, I can say, like, you have 30 minutes this week.
Yep.
I don't know if that exists. Maybe it does exist, and I don't know about that. But I would love to be able to...
You may have just spoken out loud $1 billion idea.
Dang it. Don't use my idea if you heard that. But that would be awesome.
Alex, edit that out.
Yeah, edit that. Beep. I don't have the beep button anymore. But no, seriously, like, just, I don't know. That's what I hate about the internet. Like, my kid just is glued to it, and like, everything has to be a YouTube video or Mr. Beast. Whatever. I swear to God.
I've kind of gotten good at using video games to tell Drew that this is going to teach him how to be better at baseball.
Yeah.
So we'll like play MLB The Show at night instead of being on. I'm like, see, look, just watch what's going on here and you can learn a little bit. He thinks I'm a little bit crazy, but I'm like, hey, if you play against the computer and see how good they are,
it's true though.
Watch what they're doing. It'll help you. You'll learn.
Like, have you seen the movie Gran Turismo?
No.
You should watch it. It's based on a true story about people who like used video games to get into professional race car driving.
There's a lot of PGA Tour golfers that do that when they're playing certain courses that are, they're on the video game. They'll do that same thing.
But I'm talking about like their career started because of video games. Like,
really?
They never raced a car.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
dang.
I think it was William Byron, if I'm not mistaken. He's 24 car.
I feel like I remember seeing that on a race a few weeks ago, actually, now that you say that.
Yeah, 24 car. He started off simulator events.
And didn't he like tell his parents he was going to be a driver?
Yeah.
That's why he did it so much?
Yep.
Yeah, see, I do.
And like, you think about that, how many parents are like, get off like me.
Yeah.
Get off the video game. And who knows? Like, it could be his career one day, and I don't know. Like,
and now he's driving a NASCAR car.
Yeah, like, but that's the cool thing is like, you think about that, like back in the day, you had to start with go-karts and this and work your way up. Like there, they just play video games. Became really good. And that's how real video games have become. That you can learn the real thing to the point where like you're literally making millions of dollars racing a real car.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. So that's what I got on the internet's broken. So moving on. Motivational quote of the week. It's okay not to be liked, no matter how kind or loving you are. Someone will find a way to dislike you. You could be a whole ray of sunshine and people will hate you because they are used to the rain.
Facts.
It's a long quote, but it's a necessary quote. It's okay to not be liked. No matter how kind or loving you are, someone will find a way to dislike you. You could be a whole ray of sunshine and someone will hate you because they are used to the rain. And what that tells me, what I took away from that was always find your own peace and motivation.
For sure.
Like somebody's going to have something negative to say about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Be you. It's okay to be the different. It's okay to do things that maybe are unconventional sometimes. You know, I always say, if you can choose to be anything, it's in my wife's room at school. If you can choose to be anything in this world, choose to be kind.
And just block out the noise.
Right.
I mean, don't waste your time and energy on
It's not worth it.
people that are that way, right?
Somebody's going to dislike you no matter. You could have all the money in the world and give it to everybody, and you still are going to be, somebody's going to be pissed at you.
For sure.
So it doesn't matter. Just, you have to try to move in kindness, do the best you can. But the reality is, you will never have 100% approval rating. Ever.
Never, ever.
And that's okay.
Even after 10,000 hours of trying to be an expert person.
Somebody will hate you because you're good.
Will not like it.
Remember that.
That's why everybody hates Tom Brady on TV, just because he was good. I don't think he's that bad, but everybody
I don't think he's that bad
dislikes
either.
him because
I actually enjoy him on
they
there.
just hated him as a player because he was really good.
And now he's
they
good at
just-
announcing and people don't like it.
It's
Like,
just
I don't
people
know.
are.
That's the way I
how
am.
it is.
Like, I root for people's success. That's how I've always
Absolutely.
been.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that, like, in this world that I've always tried to take away is, like, I want my friends to be more successful than me. So it's like, I'm rooting for every one of my friends.
For
Like,
sure.
When somebody achieves one of their goals, I'm like, that's awesome. Like, good for you. Like, I celebrate with them because I'm hoping one day it's my turn.
Absolutely,
Right?
yeah.
One day it's my turn. But the reality is that because it's not my turn today doesn't mean I'm going to be, like, mad that it's yours.
And they'll be the person giving you the pat on the back and saying good job when
Yeah.
it's your turn because you've done it to them for ever.
Well, that's my question is like, does anybody like to celebrate in silence?
No.
Like, everybody wants to celebrate with their friends and their family. Like, you want to have those around you that care about you.
Absolutely.
But if you're never there to care about them and to celebrate them, why would they want to be?
Right.
So it's like it's a give and take in this world. Like, you have to be willing to do that. But again, there are going to be people that just don't want to see you succeed.
Right.
And that's why I work harder.
Yep.
Work harder to prove those people wrong.
Or you're going to have the people that only want to be around you or be positive when you're being successful.
So
Like they lay in the weeds the whole time and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, oh, you just won the lottery? Remember
Yeah.
when we were good friends 30
Right,
years ago?
right.
No, I do, but I don't.
I have a fun story about this. Years ago when I got into racing, actually one of my friends, she told me this story and I totally forgot about it, but it's true. It's a true story. She told me about it and she's like, do you remember when you said this? And I was like, I don't, but now that you say it, now I do, right? I had remembered it. And she was telling me that, like, when I first got into auto racing, because I used to work on people's cars all the time. Like, I used to be a crew guy. So for the record, I got started like fixing cars and helping people become fast and just helping them win races. Like, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that aspect of, like, not having to drive it, but actually, like, doing the setup and then watching them go out and win. But as we were going on, there was a guy that used to race with us. And his name's Bud Martini. So I doubt he's listening to this. But if he is, Bud, you were one of the motivation behind my racing. And Bud would win races every night. Like, he won everywhere. Like, he used to win everything. And he'd get out of the car and the crowd would boo. It would boo every night. And he'd wave. He'd wave at the crowd every night. It was the greatest thing ever. And when Bud did that, I remember telling her, like I said, I had forgotten that I had said this story, but I told her one time, I want to be Bud Martini one day. I want to be so good at winning that people hate me.
Right.
And, like, that's what I was like. That was my motivation, was like, you are so good that people can't stand you.
Heck yeah.
And so, like, I became friends with Bud. Like, got to know him. Really awesome guy. He's a great guy. I've always gotten along with him really well. His whole family. We race different cars. Like, we don't ever race against each other. But just one of those guys that I got to know and whatnot. Well, anyways, in my racing now, as I've gotten better, like, and I've started to win more races. And, like, when I first won, everybody cheered. Everybody, because I was the new guy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, this guy won that's never won before. Great.
The
But-
underdog, right?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody loves an underdog
Yeah.
story. But now that I've won, like, more and more and more, now when I get out of the car, there are times I hear people boo. I hear them boo me from the stands. They just scream as loud as they
Look
can.
right at them and wave.
Oh yeah, and I just wave. But it's never. I still am not at that point where people just boo in general, which is what Bud. I mean, Bud won so many races that people literally booed him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is like the ultimate, like, form of success to me. Like, you are so
the
good that
best.
people
Yeah.
hate you. Like, I don't know. And that goes back to this statement. It's okay to not be liked. No matter how kind or loving you are, someone will find a way to dislike you. And that's like, just by being good, people dislike you. So
100%.
don't take it personally. You got to move on. But yeah, that's my story today on that. Like I said, I had to share that. It was kind of a fun thing that, a friend of mine, she reminded me of it. And it's the truth. Like, it's really how I interpreted success was like him getting out of the car and then people booing him.
Yep, for sure.
And he never let it get to him. He was always big smile on his face, friendly guy, but sometimes people didn't like that he won.
That's great.
And he didn't win by a little bit. He used to spank people. Like, he was so good, dude. Like, oh, he's still good. He wins all the time still, but he doesn't race, I think, as much as he used to. So
that would probably be the coolest thing ever, to just
it's awesome.
Hop out of the car and just smile and wave at everybody while they boo you. Just knowing that they're so mad that you're smiling and laughing and waving at them and just embracing it.
Yeah,
they're just getting more mad and more mad.
It is kind of funny. Like, that's exactly it. Like, when people boo me, I don't take it personally. My kids take it personally though. And I think that's the worst part.
Yeah,
like, my kids are like, Dad, that guy's booing you. I'm like, it's all right.
Yeah.
He's just mad. And I always tell him, like, he's mad that I beat his driver. Like, but like, I try to give it to them in a sense that they can take it. But it's like, dude, he's 9 and he sees you, grown adult, booing another man. Like, it's like almost worse for you, but whatever. Like, yeah. Anyways, so final thought. My final thought is always remember to put the effort in for your future, not put the effort in for your current event, right? So whether you're coming to work every day because you need to pay your bills, don't put the effort in for that reason. Put the effort in because you don't want to have bills, right? It's not, I have to pay my bills. How many times do you hear people, I wouldn't go to work, but I have to pay my bills, right? Like, they say stuff like that where it's like the work is because of their bills. Work so hard you don't have bills.
Correct.
Like, so my final thought is the 10,000 hour rule is a real thing that you need to consider. Put the efforts in, do things today that future self, business, employees, employer will appreciate. Do the things that somebody else isn't willing to do. Put the efforts in that will make it so that you can't fail.
For sure. Put
so much effort in that even if you do fail to reach your initial goal, you've reached levels that you never anticipated, and it's not a failure to you.
Right.
And that's where I've always said, reach for the stars on that stuff.
And on top of that, be willing to take the criticism and the helpful, constructive thoughts that people are trying to help you be better.
Yeah.
I mean, people are only telling you that to be better for the most part, usually.
Right. Yep.
And on top of that, if people don't like you, don't give a damn about it. Don't care what other people think.
Yeah, move on.
If they're not in your circle and helping you and supporting you, then just don't worry about them.
And that's exactly the way to live. Is just
Absolutely.
like, internal peace. Find your internal peace. Go work as hard as you can. Be proud of what you achieve and learn from mistakes. We all make mistakes. We got to learn from them.
Surround yourself with the type of people that you want yourself to be.
Yep. Man, we're good with these quotes.
We're good.
Well, with that,
we should write a book.
I don't have any more quotes. I don't have any more topics. I think I'm there.
Time to get back to work.
Time to get back to work, he says.
I got bills to pay.
Yeah, that was good. With that, I'm going to jump into it. We appreciate you guys listening every week, tuning into us. We're just two normal guys just talking. To be honest with you, most of the time, we're just rattling off how we feel and what we're thinking about and trying to share some good thoughts with you. So hopefully you can see that you aren't alone in this world. We're all kind of going through similar situations, just in a different business, different location. But with that, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
Thanks for talking shop with ShopSabre.